Civil War is, of course, and I'm sure will be, a very polarizing movie, probably the most polarizing movie that comes out this year. No doubt. What is it about? It is the backdrop of a fictional civil war that is happening in the United States. And in the world that we live in now, in the climate that we live in now, that's going to ruffle some feathers and that is going to piss some people off. But I think when we get to the core of this, actually, this movie is actually much more than that. I think at the heart of it, the Civil War itself is actually just a backdrop for a much deeper and more intimate story. And today we are going to talk about that. So I hope, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of We Need to Talk About. We're here talking about Civil War, the newest film from Alex Garland. I don't even know where to start, honestly. I did a shorter review on my second channel. You can go check that out. This film moved me, shocked me, frightened me, made me feel every single type of emotion in the book, and I loved it. I gave this movie a 95 out of 100. It currently sits as my number 2 favorite movie of the year behind Dune Part 2. It affected me in a way that I went in fully expecting, but until it actually happens, you just don't know. You just don't know. But we're going to go through every little detail, intricacy about this movie in this video. So buckle up, fasten your seatbelts, because this is a wild one, and we're going to talk about it. Let's start first with the performances. I really want to give the flowers to our 2 leading ladies, Kirsten Dunst and Cailee Spaeny. I think this is their story. It is, like, at the core. And I'm going to try my best not to spoil this movie, by the way, either. But I will give a spoiler warning just in case, but I'm going to try my best not to. But at the core, this is a film about Kirsten Dunst and Cailee Spaeny's characters finding each other, meeting each other, learning from each other, and really having them spin their worlds. And I thought that was really interesting, to have this very delicate story have this backdrop of a modern day civil war happening on United States soil. But I actually think it's great. I think it's the best decision Garland and his team could have made, because this, at its core, is a cautionary tale. It's supposed to frighten all of us. It is supposed to have the shock value. It is. But it doesn't pick a side. Of course, there are offshoot lines of dialogue and things that, and images. But at the core, this movie does not pick a side. And I know some people have issues with that. I've seen some of my fellow critic friends review this movie and say they wish there was more political intrigue, they wish there was more of this, and they wish there was more of that. And I respect that opinion. I just happen to disagree. I think if it picked a side, that would have created a whole basket of worms that I don't think this movie needed. Because in the end, this movie's not about the Civil War that's being fought. It's about these 2 women and their journeys. And the Civil War is the backdrop. I think that's the right way to tell this story. Instead of being preachy and shoving it in your face, which other movies have done, and that's the movie they wanted to make. Instead of being preachy and shoving it in your face, they sprinkle in the shock factor. They bring in these very intense moments, and they capture it from the perspective of the journalists covering it. It doesn't pick a side, but it shows you what can happen without infusing it with all of the political rage that we're so used to nowadays. I really liked that decision. Little background on myself. I graduated from college, from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. I got a degree in journalism from it's regarded as one of the most prestigious journalism schools in the country. So this one does hit a little deep for me. It does. I won't lie. This is what I was trained to do. Obviously not be a war photographer, but report on things that are happening in the world. That's what I was trained to do. And so I think I have at least a little bit of a unique perspective watching this movie. And maybe for me it worked so well because I feel what these journalists feel. But I still think in general it was told in such an effective way. And again, I want to hammer home the use of it being from the perspective of the journalists, I think was the best way to tell this story without picking a side and infusing it with unneeded, unwanted political intrigue that did not need to be there to tell this type of cautionary tale in this type of story. I just went on a rant about the writing when in reality I was supposed to be talking about the performances. But nonetheless, the performances from top to bottom are phenomenal. And again, Kirsten Dunst and Cailee Spaeny are the heart and soul of this movie, and they are transcendent. They both have this, at different parts of the movie, they both have this very stoic and stone-type facial expression that just feels hollow and cold. And in the context of the movie, it is incredible to watch. It really is. So they deserve all the credit in the world for bringing their A game. I also do want to give a quick shout out to Jesse Plemons. He's in this movie for maybe 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes is phenomenal, and he's phenomenal. He's frightening. He's terrifying. You've seen a lot of his clips in the trailers. It's horrifying. And he is so good in this. So a little shout out to Jesse Plemons as well. He's really good. I already talked about the writing, so I'm not going to get fully into it again. But I, in conclusion with the writing, I really like the route that they took. We are really what we're doing here, and I'm going to try to do this without spoiling the movie because I don't want to spoil the movie for you. I want you all to go watch it. What we are doing is we are seeing the old guard and the new guard, and we are seeing the old guard teach the new guard and watching the new guard mature into becoming what could be the next old guard, if that makes sense, while being as vague as possible. Cailee Spaeny, obviously, the new guard. Kirsten Dunst, obviously the old guard. I like that story, and I think that having the backdrop be what it is added to that story. And I really liked, I loved the character development that we got from our leading ladies, in particular in this movie. All right. Done with the writing. The technical is masterful. It's a shame that Alex Garland made the comment that he doesn't think he's going to make movies anymore, because even before Civil War, the movies he made were phenomenal. But this movie in particular, from a production and technical standpoint, is top of the line. I got to see it in IMAX. I highly recommend you see it in IMAX as well. It's beautifully shot and composed. The cinematography is fantastic. Set design, costume design, really good costume design I'm not really worried about because it's just regular clothes and military fatigues. But the set design was really good. But it's the sound design. And this loops back in with the shock appeal and the tension. You have these intimate moments, and then you are directly infused into a highly tense situation with booming sound. It is a loud movie. Booming sound. You feel like you are engrossed in this environment. He creates an atmosphere that is so tense and so in your face that you can't help but just take it in. You cannot look away from this movie. You just can't. No matter what is on screen, no matter how shocking, no matter how gruesome, you are so invested in this environment and in this story that you cannot look away no matter what is on screen. And that's masterful direction and atmosphere building. It's just so good. And what Garland did, just tip of the cap to you. If this is the last one, I hope it's not, but if it is, you went out on a high note in terms of direction. The production, like I've already covered, is phenomenal. It's some of the best you're going to see all year. This is the most tense movie you'll see all year. I think for a lot, it's due to the subject matter. For me, it was definitely due to the subject matter, but it's also, like I said, that atmosphere. You already have that subject matter lingering over you, and then you are fully thrust in the middle of it. And I really liked that. Movies are supposed to transport you into a new world. And while this is a familiar world, it is a fictional familiar world. At least, So I really thought it was incredibly well thought out and well made. It's just a well-made movie at the core. It's an incredibly well-made movie. I'm not going to babble on for more than I need to. But I made the first video and I really felt like I needed to make a longer one because there's just so many thoughts here. There's just so much nuance to this. I'm going to take a sip of water because, there's so much nuance and there's so much to this story that's just it's so difficult to watch. It is. And it's a cautionary tale. It's a cautionary tale without taking a side, like I've already mentioned. And I just really, I really respect that. I really do. It would have been so easy to pick one side or the other, inject in rhetoric for one side, inject in rhetoric from the other side. Like, it could have been so easy to do that, but it didn't. There are strategic things in this movie that don't make sense in our real world that are done for a reason to make you kind of scratch your head, but remind you that, oh, this is not the real world. But it could be. And that's what this movie is trying to portray. Is that this is not the real world, but by God, it could be. So that's all I got to say. I'm going to wrap this up. In conclusion, Civil War is by far, and it will probably be the most, if not one of the most intense movies that we will see this year. It's not light-handed in what it is. There's imagery in here that is gruesome, it is disturbing, it is haunting, it is frightening. But I think we all needed to see a movie like this. In my opinion. I can be completely wrong. But I think Alex Garland, the writing team, everyone involved did a really great job. Again, and I've said this, I'm going to continue to hit it home. They did a great job at not picking a side. This is a highly polarizing movie just based off the synopsis. But you did not pick a side. You told it from an unbiased perspective. And what better perspective to do that from than journalists? I know people have a lot of things to say about journalists nowadays. But again, as someone who went to journalism school, what we are taught at a very young age, as freshmen in college, tell the truth, be unbiased, tell the damn story. You may have your opinions on the media. I get it. But I think that was the perfect lens to tell this type of story. My opinion. It's just my opinion. Get in the comments, though, and let me know. What did you think of Civil War? If you've seen it. I got to see it early, but if you've seen it, and when you've seen it, when you see it, come back and comment. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know why. And the one thing I ask you, please, keep it civil in the comments. That's all I ask. Keep it civil in the comments. Let's have a grown-up conversation in the comments on why we did or did not like this movie. I've given you my reasons. You give me your reasons, but let's please keep it civil in the comments. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. All right. This is a heavy one. It is. It's a tough one to talk about. It's a heavy one, but I wanted to talk about it because it really affected me, and I really liked it for what it did, and I thought it was a really good movie. So I needed to talk about it. Here's the time for all the spiels. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already. I do videos like this a few times a month. Longer form breakdowns on movies, longer form reviews on movies that I really, really enjoy. So make sure you subscribe. Don't miss out. I'm doing them all the time. Subscribe to my second channel. It'll be linked down below in the description. 3-minute reviews of every new release I see. Follow me on social media, especially my Instagram. I do all movie reviews on my Instagram as well, so make sure you don't miss that. But in the end, go down in the comments, let me know what you thought. like the video, helps the YouTube algorithm. I know, I got to do it. And subscribe. I really do appreciate you all for watching. This is a tough one. I know it's tough to get through. It's tough to talk about. But I really appreciate you all watching with an open mind and being civil in the comments. That's pretty much it, guys. I thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean the absolute world. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video.